The arena was already shaking with chaos, but absolutely no one could have predicted what was about to unfold on WWE SmackDown. CM Punk, the man who returned to WWE to reignite his fire and prove he's still the best in the world, found himself cornered, humiliated, and brutalized by none other than Becky Lynch. Yes, the man herself crossed a line that left the WWE universe gasping in horror. But just when the fans thought Punk was finished, when his body looked broken and the lights in his eyes dimmed, the unthinkable happened. AJ Lee returned. But let's not jump too fast. We need to walk through the carnage that led up to this moment, because Becky Lynch's actions weren't just ruthless, they were calculated, cold, and meant to send a message to everyone in the locker room. It all started earlier in the night when CM Punk came out to address the fans. The chants of CM Punk. CM Punk filled the entire arena, a thunderous sound that shook the rafters. Punk, in typical fashion, leaned against the ropes with that sly smirk, reminding everyone that he's not just a competitor, he's a disruptor. He promised change, he promised to hold everyone accountable, and he promised to expose those who claimed to be untouchable. But Punk made one fatal mistake. He called out Becky Lynch. Standing in the middle of the ring, Punk didn't hold back. He said, and I quote, "Becky Lynch might call herself the man, but I see nothing but a coward hiding behind her brand. You don't intimidate me, Becky. You don't scare me. And if you want to prove you're as tough as you say, then step into the ring with me." The crowd went insane. Chants of yes, 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 and fight, fight, fight erupted as Punk dropped the mic and spread his arms wide, daring Becky to show her face. And she did. Becky Lynch stormed out, eyes blazing, microphone in hand, and she wasted no time firing back. "You want to talk about cowards, Punk? The only coward I see is the man who walked away when things got tough. The only coward I see is the man who couldn't handle being second best, so he took his ball and left. And now you're back, and you think you can disrespect me? You think you can use my name to make yourself relevant again? Not on my watch." The fans were split. Half cheered Becky, half booed her, but everyone was glued to their seats. What started as verbal jabs escalated into something darker. Becky didn't just want to prove she was better, she wanted to end CM Punk in front of the entire WWE universe. Later in the night, during what was supposed to be Punk's match against a local competitor, Becky Lynch stormed the ring out of nowhere. No warning, no hesitation. She blindsided Punk, smashing him in the back with a steel chair so hard that the echo rang through the arena like a gunshot. Punk crumpled to the mat, clutching his spine as Becky towered over him with a cold, merciless grin. And it didn't stop there. She dragged Punk to the outside, slamming his head into the announce table, screaming insults the entire time. "You think you can disrespect me? You think you can call me a coward?" Becky roared as she slammed Punk's face into the steel steps. Blood trickled from his forehead, painting the steps red as the crowd screamed in shock. Corey Graves was on commentary screaming, "Somebody stop her. She's lost her mind," while Michael Cole kept shouting, "This is not who Becky Lynch is supposed to be." But Becky didn't care. With Punk barely conscious, Becky slid him back into the ring and grabbed the steel chair again. She wrapped it around his neck, threatening to crush his windpipe right there in front of millions watching around the world. The referees stormed the ring, but Becky swung wildly, knocking one of them out cold. The fans erupted into boos, the loudest they had ever been for Becky Lynch. Punk, crawling, bloodied, and gasping for air, looked like he had nothing left. Becky raised her arms high, ready to deliver the killing blow, ready to cement her dominance forever. And then, it happened. The lights in the arena flickered. The crowd froze. A buzz rippled through the air as confusion turned into anticipation. Everyone held their breath as the Titantron flickered on, and a hauntingly familiar theme hit the speakers. Light it up, the arena exploded. AJ Lee had returned. Becky's face twisted in shock, her confidence shaken for the first time all night. Punk's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. And the crowd? The crowd reached decibel levels not heard in years. People were crying, screaming, hugging each other. AJ Lee, the woman who defined an era, the love of CM Punk's life, the woman who swore she would never come back, was standing at the top of the ramp, eyes locked on Becky Lynch. The standoff was electric. AJ Lee marched down to the ring, her trademark smirk spreading across her face. The moment she slid under the ropes, Becky swung the chair, but AJ ducked it with ease. What followed was chaos. AJ Lee, after years of absence, went toe-to-toe with Becky Lynch, fists flying, fury pouring out of every strike. The arena was electric, chaos erupting with every second AJ Lee made her way to the ring. Becky Lynch, still seething from her earlier domination, wasn't about to back down. She swung wildly at AJ, but Lee ducked, rolled under the ropes, and sprang to her feet with a confidence that had the entire crowd screaming her name. AJ didn't hesitate. She launched herself at Becky with a series of precise strikes, fists, and forearms flying. Every punch landed with a satisfying smack, echoing throughout the arena, and the audience could feel the shift in momentum. Becky tried to retaliate, swinging the steel chair again, but AJ grabbed it mid-swing, twisting it out of her hands and tossing it aside with a force that left the former SmackDown Women's Champion momentarily stunned. CM Punk, barely conscious in the corner of the ring, looked up in disbelief. His eyes widened as he saw the woman he once called the love of his life standing up, facing down his tormentor, ready to fight not just for him, but for every fan who had been screaming justice since Becky Lynch started her ruthless attack. AJ didn't stop for a second. She unleashed a flurry of strikes, ducking Becky's kicks and dodging punches, while Punk slowly tried to get back to his feet. The arena was a symphony of noise, cheers, chants of AJ, 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 and the occasional gasp as Becky tried to regain control. But AJ was relentless, her movements precise, practiced, and fueled by pure fury. Finally, Becky, desperate to turn the tide, attempted a vicious clothesline, but AJ ducked, slipped behind her, and delivered a devastating DDT right in the center of the ring. Becky collapsed, stunned and dazed. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, and you could feel the energy shift in the arena. AJ Lee wasn't just here to fight, she was here to win, to protect, and to send a message to anyone who dared attack CM Punk. Punk, now slowly recovering, tried to rise, leaning against the ropes for support. AJ grabbed his arm, helping him stand, her eyes scanning the ring to make sure Becky wasn't going to strike again. Becky, enraged and bleeding from the earlier brawl, staggered to her feet, fury radiating from every pore. She lunged at AJ again, but this time, AJ had Punk at her side. Together, they were a force of nature, combining Punk's renewed energy with AJ's precision, and Becky found herself being pushed back into the corner for the first time all night. The audience was on its feet, chanting Punk, AJ, Punk, AJ in unison, fully invested in this unexpected alliance. It wasn't just a fight, it was a statement. Becky Lynch had underestimated them, and the WWE Universe was loving every second of her comeuppance. As Becky tried to escape, AJ grabbed her by the hair, spinning her around, and delivered a sharp, thunderous knee strike that left Becky crumpled in the center of the ring. Punk, now fully on his feet, lifted the steel chair Becky had dropped earlier, holding it like a shield and warning her to stay back. Becky, realizing she had no control over the situation, screamed insults, threats, and challenges. But AJ and Punk stood firm, side by side, sending a clear message: any further attack would be met with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, backstage officials were in a frenzy. Producers, referees, and security personnel were scrambling to figure out how to regain control of the situation. But the crowd, and more importantly AJ Lee herself, refused to let this moment be tamed. The WWE Universe had witnessed something historic: AJ Lee's return, not as a nostalgic cameo, but as a dominant, decisive force ready to protect CM Punk and send Becky Lynch a message she would never forget. The brawl spilled toward the ropes, with Becky attempting a last-ditch attack, but Punk and AJ countered with a double-team maneuver. Punk executed a sharp enziguri, stunning Becky, while AJ followed up with a superkick that left her sprawled out, gasping and defeated. And as the camera panned to the crowd, signs waving and fans screaming, the commentators couldn't help but gush, "Ladies and gentlemen, history has been made tonight. AJ Lee is back, and she just saved CM Punk from the wrath of Becky Lynch." This is one of the most shocking, exhilarating, and emotional moments WWE SmackDown has ever seen. Punk, finally steady on his feet, looked at AJ with gratitude and disbelief. His mouth opened to speak, but all he could manage was a hoarse, you came back, for me." AJ smirked, brushing her hair back, and replied with a single, confident word: "Always." The crowd erupted as confetti fell, the camera zooming in on the emotional reunion between AJ Lee and CM Punk. Fans immediately began posting on social media, with hashtags like #AJReturns, #JusticeForPunk, and #BeckyGotServed trending worldwide in minutes. But the drama wasn't over. Because while Becky lay in the ring, battered and humiliated, the WWE Universe knew this wouldn't be the last chapter. AJ Lee had returned, yes, but Becky Lynch is nothing if not resilient. And with CM Punk standing by her side, AJ's return had set the stage for a feud that could dominate WWE for months, if not years. The arena was still buzzing from AJ Lee's shocking return. Fans were screaming, chanting, and posting non-stop on social media, but backstage, the storm was only getting worse. WWE officials, referees, and producers were scrambling to regain control. Security was still trying to separate Becky Lynch from Punk and AJ, but the anger radiating from the ring told them that tonight was a turning point. Something unprecedented had just happened, and the ramifications would ripple through WWE for weeks. Becky Lynch, bloodied, bruised, and humiliated, finally rose to her feet. Her eyes scanned the arena, landing on CM Punk and AJ Lee. Every fan could see the fire in her eyes. It wasn't just frustration, it was fury. Becky wasn't done. Not even close. AJ, standing protectively in front of Punk, didn't flinch. She wasn't intimidated. In fact, she looked more determined than ever. For the first time in years, AJ Lee was fully back, ready to fight, ready to dominate, and ready to prove that she hadn't lost an ounce of her intensity or skill. The commentators, unable to contain their excitement, shouted over the chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought WWE SmackDown couldn't shock you tonight, think again. AJ Lee has returned, and she saved CM Punk from the ruthless attack of Becky Lynch. This is historic. But while the crowd celebrated, the tension backstage reached a fever pitch. Triple H, watching the chaos unfold on monitors, slammed his fists against the desk in frustration. The game had never faced a situation like this, an ex-superstar returning unannounced, challenging the authority, and stealing the spotlight. His attempts to control the storyline, to protect Becky Lynch and maintain order, had utterly failed. And Becky wasn't backing down. In a scathing promo immediately following the brawl, Becky grabbed a microphone and said, "AJ Lee, CM Punk, you think you can just waltz in and take over SmackDown? You think you can humiliate me in front of the WWE Universe and walk away unscathed? You're wrong. Dead wrong. I've fought legends. I've crushed rivals. And I don't lose. Not tonight. Not ever." AJ Lee didn't respond verbally, but her eyes spoke volumes. The smirk returned to her face, confident and dangerous. She raised her fist and stared down Becky, signaling that the next confrontation wasn't just inevitable, it was coming fast, and it would be brutal. Meanwhile, CM Punk, still slightly bloodied from the earlier attack, leaned on AJ for support, but his gaze was locked on Becky. For the first time in years, Punk's intensity matched the chaos around him. He spoke to the audience. "Becky Lynch thought she could end me tonight. Thought she could make an example out of me. But she didn't account for two things: AJ Lee and the fact that the WWE Universe knows the truth. Becky, tonight isn't over, and your reign of terror ends soon." The WWE Universe erupted once again. Signs went up. Fans waved banners proclaiming justice for Punk and AJ, and chants of "Fight! Fight! Fight!" echoed throughout the arena. The energy was palpable, almost electric, and everyone in the building could feel that a monumental match was brewing. Backstage, the producers scrambled. Triple H convened a meeting with WWE officials to determine the fallout. Options were limited. They could try to punish AJ for interfering, but the audience reaction made it clear that doing so would backfire catastrophically. Punish Becky? That seemed inevitable, but Triple H knew it wouldn't be enough. The fans wanted a proper showdown, a match where AJ and Punk could finally get their justice. And that's exactly what was decided. A special main event tag match was announced for next week's SmackDown: CM Punk and AJ Lee vs Becky Lynch and a mystery partner. The announcement hit social media immediately, trending worldwide. Fans were speculating non-stop about who Becky's partner would be, but one thing was certain: WWE had inadvertently created the most anticipated feud in years. The crowd didn't wait for a full break. They chanted Punk and AJ's names in unison, holding their signs high, demanding retribution for the brutal attack. And backstage, wrestlers whispered among themselves. Some were excited, some were fearful. AJ Lee's return had changed everything. The locker room knew that the status quo had been shattered, and no one would be able to ignore it. As the segment concluded, AJ Lee raised her hand in victory, standing protectively beside Punk while Becky Lynch seated in the background. Security escorted Becky backstage, but the look in her eyes promised that this war was far from over. The WWE Universe had witnessed history: AJ Lee's triumphant return, a rescue of CM Punk, and the setup for a feud that would dominate SmackDown headlines for months. Finally, as the cameras panned to the crowd, signs and chants filled the arena. AJ, 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 Punk, 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 and Becky vs AJ resonated like a thunderstorm. The WWE Universe had picked their side, and it was clear AJ Lee and CM Punk had the crowd behind them 100%, and Becky Lynch was facing one of the toughest battles of her career. The arena was still buzzing as cameras cut backstage, showing officials scrambling to set up the match for next week's SmackDown. Security was checking every detail, ensuring that the chaos of AJ Lee's return wouldn't spill into uncontrolled mayhem. But everyone knew something important: no amount of security could contain the energy that had erupted in that ring tonight. Back in the arena, Becky Lynch stood alone on the ramp, glaring down at CM Punk and AJ Lee, the weight of the previous brawl still evident in her movements. Her face was streaked with sweat and grime, a mask of fury and frustration. She raised a microphone, her voice shaking with intensity, and addressed the WWE Universe. "You think this is over? You think a little interference and a flash of old glory from AJ Lee changes anything? CM Punk, you're lucky AJ saved your sorry ass tonight. But next week, I will end this. And AJ Lee? You're not just stepping into my world, you're stepping into hell." The crowd erupted, cheering and chanting AJ and Punk's names in unison, and Becky's words only fueled the energy. AJ Lee, standing with Punk in the ring, didn't respond verbally. Her stare said it all. Her eyes burned with determination, the smirk returning as she silently issued a warning: "Try me, Becky. Next week, you won't know what hit you." The commentators, still catching their breath from the chaos, emphasized the magnitude of the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we witnessed one of the most shocking returns in WWE history. AJ Lee is back, and she saved CM Punk from a brutal assault at the hands of Becky Lynch. The stage is set for a tag match next week that could change the landscape of SmackDown forever. Backstage, WWE officials held an emergency meeting. Triple H, watching the feed, slammed his fist against the monitor in frustration. AJ Lee's return had disrupted his carefully curated plans, exposed Becky Lynch's brutality, and electrified the fans in a way no one could contain. "We underestimated them," an executive muttered. "This isn't just AJ Lee returning, it's a full-blown war." Meanwhile, in the locker room, wrestlers whispered and speculated. Some were excited about the potential chaos, some nervous about the unpredictable nature of AJ Lee, and some quietly celebrated Punk finally having an ally who could match the raw intensity of Becky Lynch. The WWE Universe had already picked their sides, and the locker room knew that the coming week would be explosive. As the arena lights dimmed, the camera cut to AJ Lee and CM Punk standing together in the center of the ring. Punk, still recovering from the brutal attack, held a microphone and addressed Becky directly. "Becky, tonight wasn't just about survival, it was about showing the world that you can't control everything, you can't decide who wins or loses, and you certainly can't decide the truth. AJ Lee is back, I'm back, and next week, we finish what you tried to start. But this time, it ends your way. And believe me, WWE Universe, it won't be pretty for you." The crowd erupted, chanting AJ Punk, AJ Punk over and over, the energy in the arena unmatched by any moment in recent WWE history. The commentators tried to capture the significance. "We are witnessing history here, folks. AJ Lee, returning after years away, aligning with CM Punk, facing Becky Lynch next week in a tag match that has every fan on the edge of their seats. This feud, this storyline, it's already one for the ages." But Becky wasn't finished. She screamed back from the ramp. "You think your little reunion changes anything? I've faced AJ Lee before. I've faced CM Punk before. I've beaten legends before. Next week, I proved that the man is still the man." The tension between the two sides couldn't be thicker. The crowd was on fire, chanting, screaming, and holding up signs demanding justice, action, and retribution. AJ Lee's smirk widened. CM Punk, now fully on his feet, flexed his fingers and shoulders, readying himself for what was coming. The final moments of the segment were pure electricity. AJ and Punk stood side by side in the ring, facing Becky Lynch and her mystery partner, both teams fully aware that next week's SmackDown would be a war. The camera panned to the crowd, showing signs that read "Justice for Punk, AJ returns," and "Becky beware." Social media was already exploding with reactions, trending hashtags, and predictions for the epic clash. The commentators summed it up perfectly: this isn't just a match. This isn't just a feud. This is the WWE Universe witnessing history in real time. AJ Lee's return has changed everything. CM Punk has a partner in this war. Becky Lynch, your reign of chaos is about to be challenged like never before. SmackDown next week will be a showdown for the ages, and nobody will be safe from the fallout. As the screen faded to black and the segment ended, the WWE Universe was left in stunned anticipation. Every fan knew one thing: AJ Lee's return wasn't just a rescue, it was a declaration of war. Becky Lynch had just been warned. CM Punk had just been protected. And WWE SmackDown would never be the same again. The energy, the chaos, the emotion, it all built toward a moment that would be remembered for years. AJ Lee was back, CM Punk was standing tall, and Becky Lynch had been put on notice. The countdown to next week's SmackDown had officially begun. The stage was set. The lines had been drawn. The WWE Universe had made their choice. And when the bell rings next week, all hell will break loose.